Keir Starmer, I think you're a fucking wanker.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're all well. Just on Reasoned here, mentioned her before. She's up to 220,000 subscribers now. The name of the video is Zaya Youssef makes shocking prediction as UK borrowing costs spiral out of control to 27-year high. Well, anybody who's followed the channel for a while, I've mentioned the economy and the national debt quite a lot for the last couple of months. Cause the ever-escalating national debt is our problem, causing inflation, causing many other things, to be honest. Again, just spiraling out of control, and again, it's kind of how much we borrow against GDP. We're now at 100%. The minute we go over 100%, which will happen any time, again, it's over 100%, so it's not good. And basically, they put up how much you charge to borrow money, and so all the money we've borrowed, £3.2 trillion at this point. They put up the borrowing costs of how much it costs to borrow money, and it escalates out of control, to be honest. That's why I was kind of mentioning it, because again, it's like most people don't understand economics, but it's a shit show, and like it's a shit show of immense proportions coming down the road that ultimately ends in us all being very poor. And the statement by the Economic Forum, you will own nothing by 2030 and be happy. Well, the own nothing part might be very true, to be honest. So yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, this is coming for everywhere. Like, everywhere's going to fall in the same way, in a way. There's no real place to run to. And unfortunately, the economy is maths, and you can't really argue with maths. You can't protest against maths. You're in a real predicament, really, as you've been spent into an absolute oblivion. I mean, we're spending £8 to £9 million a day just on putting migrants in hotels, just putting them in hotels. So this isn't helping at all. This is why I was massively against the whole migrant hotel thing and the whole migrant thing. Not just for women and children being attacked, but because they are literally spending us into an oblivion that will affect us all, and we'll all be poor because these people are spending us into an oblivion, and have since COVID, to be honest, and well before, to be honest. But it hit real pace when COVID happened. And again, in my opinion, COVID, one of the main functions of COVID was to completely destroy the economy and send us into this spiral of debt that we're in now, and paying people 80% of the wage not to go to work for the first time and probably the last time in history. It was insane. It was an absolutely insane idea, if you know anything about economics. And at the time, I did, and I was trying to sort of tell people, enjoy this. This will never happen again. The ramifications of what's happening here will affect you for probably forever in the near future. So enjoy your time off, because trust me, there's a shitstorm coming down the line here. Nothing is free in this world, nothing, and you will eventually pay for this day's work. And now here we are, paying for this day's work. So yeah, there's a shit show coming here, as the thing says here. UK borrowing costs hit 27-year high, and are now higher than Greece. Fears for mortgage holders. Again, the guy I'm going to Turkey with in the near future, years and years ago, when he was buying his house, I said to him about when he was buying his house, you don't realise what's coming down the line here. You might end up losing that house to the bank, because that's kind of the plan. You will own nothing and be happy. So again, the banks repossessing everyone's houses who's got mortgages is very much part of the plan, because that's how you get all the houses of all the people who are in houses that they kind of own, but this is how you get the entire fucking lot right off them in one go. You collapse the economy. Economy that was built to collapse, though. That's the unfortunate part that most people, again, won't understand with the economy. All this was designed, all this was planned, like the whole economy. With the minute Thatcher and possibly Ronald Reagan removed the gold standard on the money, this was always going to happen. They're just spending us into an oblivion since 1993, possibly. Oh no, was it 1982? Sorry, 1982, possibly, with Thatcher removed the gold standard. Again, you could Google that for the exact date of Thatcher removing the gold standard. But the minute that happened, we were in a lot of shit here. And don't get me wrong, it was going to take a long time for that shit to come about, be it 40 odd years. But the shit is now here. And we've now, again, when Thatcher was making crippling cuts to the country's finances in the 80s, we were only 36% of GDP in debt, and now we're 100%. This is very, very different. This isn't. I can try to explain this to people when people kind of think the economy just goes around in circles and we have highs and lows and highs and lows and highs and lows. And we kind of do, but the national debt has a massive, absolutely massive ramification on what happens. And all the other times we've had these ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs, we haven't had a £3.2 trillion debt on our head. So, yeah, and now the GDP at 100, where the borrowing costs are going up. So this is real bad news, to be honest. For anybody who doesn't understand economics, this is real bad news. If you don't own your house and you currently have a mortgage, depending on what happens here, you may lose your house. This, it says here, fears for mortgage holders. Yeah, you could lose your house to the bank. The bank could repossess, and across the country, this could be thousands upon thousands of people's houses repossessed. So, and how all this works as well, when all this real bagwash is coming down on us, and you've got to realise that a lot of the police, especially the young police, will all have mortgages on their homes, so they will be doing their utmost not to be getting sacked, because ultimately they need the job to pay for the house, because everything's escalated out of control here, but the police will look after them, possibly even putting their wages up, because it's times of trouble and the economy's collapsed. So, it all fits together into a nice little puzzle, to be honest, that, again, I've mentioned many a time, has been planned out for a very, very long time, and everything's kind of been thought out here. Like, I'm talking every minuscule detail. These motherfuckers have thought of. So, you're up. I mean, this is the beauty of it as well. Even say England got anywhere near getting a revolution on, or whatever you want to call it, the powers that be could just completely collapse the economy and render us all completely poor within hours, overnight. And the prospects of a revolution, when you're all worrying about everything else, maybe de-escalate. They maybe escalate, actually, because everybody will just be that pissed off they'll just riot at that point. I don't know. I don't know, with the British people, the French, and we see it in Indonesia there, them all going mental, but the British kind of take everything on the chin, and even when we've seen all these protests, people getting arrested for nothing, and the British just stand and watch these people get arrested for nothing, and don't really even go for the police, because again, it's police by consent. We stand down, but as many people have been mentioning, that's on the verge of being policed by consent due to the police's actions. On many occasions now, a lot of the British public are getting pissed off, but again, that could be all part of the plan to make you kick off. Then when you kick off, they can bring in loads of rules and laws and curfews. So it's a shit show like you've never seen, to be honest, and it's about to get a whole lot worse. When the effects of this... when the effects of this start to take hold over the next couple of weeks and months and days, and there's another budget soon, and Rachel Reeves is going to have to clamber all this money back, oh, we're in the real shit here. So I expect an absolute shit show at the budget as well, the likes of which you've never seen. Yeah, tax the rich to give to the migrants and pay off the bills of the country. So we'll play a bit of this as we've seen below before. As you watch below, sorry, the national debt escalate ever further, ever further, and yeah, when this video stops, that number below will keep going ever more. Every second you're doing anything, or in bed, or asleep, or eating, or doing anything at all, that number is going up at that speed, at that pace, and putting us more in the shit. And again, the amount of money that we're spending on migrants isn't fucking helping whatsoever. And the amount of money we're spending on foreigners, on a universal credit, is not helping whatsoever. That's predominantly, probably, a massive part of this debt, if not, altogether for migrants on benefits and in hotels and HMOs. We could be spending £100 million a day, £100 million a day on putting all these people in all these things and giving them benefits and the families and you name it, putting them in houses and buying now houses for them. It's, unbelievable. Yeah, we could be spending up to £100 million a day, and this is this is really not helping this country. It really isn't. I can't stress how much it's absolutely crippling us, and the British people are very much going to suffer at the hands of the global elites and the politicians to put migrants in hotels and look after foreigners. Unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. Let's have a bit of reason.
Worse than Liz Truss and worse than Greece. Are the rumours of the UK needing an IMF bailout about to come true? Well, it seems like they might be, because we have just hit a 27-year high with the UK's borrowing costs. The markets are going completely crazy because they have no faith whatsoever that Rachel Reeves will be able to balance the books with her autumn budget. And I want to show you what Zia Yusuf had to say about this, because Zia Yusuf, unlike Rachel Reeves, who is our Chancellor, actually understands markets because he used to work at Goldman Sachs. Let's take a listen.
If you look at our borrowing costs and gilt yields, they're way above where it was even at the peak of the trust crisis. And it just keeps inching upwards.
Oh, gremlins in the machine yet again. I mean, I had that pause for fucking knows how long. You know what I mean? I've got my PS5 on. It's always the same crack. As soon as I knock this off, watch it'll load. It's always the way. Come on, Reason. Let's have it.
And inching upwards. We now have higher borrowing costs than America, and we have higher borrowing costs than Greece. Let me say that again. The United Kingdom now pays more to borrow money than Greece. The cost of the interest payments alone annually are almost bigger than our defence and our schools budget combined, Camilla. So I think what's going to happen now is, there's a big question whether the IMF could even afford to bail the United Kingdom out. But the people who are now using the words IMF bailout and the UK in the same sentence are not partisan hacks, right? These are well-respected economists.
I just want to interject here. The last thing that you ever want is an IMF bailout. You do not want to be in debt to the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, because they start stripping assets of the country away like they have in Africa and many other countries. So that name, IMF, the International Monetary Fund, it's not a good name. It's not so people you want to be borrowing money off.
And I think what they're really worried about is, number one, a total inability for this Prime Minister to find any savings in the budget at all. Couldn't even save 1.2% of the total welfare budget. Couldn't get that past his walloping majority there.
I mean, again, if we stop spending £100 million a day, I mean, I don't know that exactly, but I would say somewhere in the region of 50 to £100 million a day on giving migrants, both legal and illegal, benefits, houses, iPhones, hotels, you name it, HMOs. If we stopped, I mean, let's say £100 million a day. So what's that? Nearly £3.5 billion for nearly £4 billion a year. £4 billion a year, right there on migrants. I think the actual total was 4.6 when. Somebody did a calculation, £4.6 billion a year on migrants. We currently pay £1.5 billion a year in interest on the national debt. On the number below, the interest is currently 1.5 billion. It will go up if the borrowing costs increase, so fuck knows how much we'll be paying. But if we got rid of all the migrants and all the migrant benefits and everything, that would save us nearly 5 billion a year. So we'd be down to 100. We'd be down to 100. Again, I mean, all this kind of means as well, the NHS is going to collapse. They will not be able to afford the NHS. Winter fuel payments are gone, absolute goner here. I mean, you're heading into times, and I've said this for 20 years of knowing how the economy works, that the youth of today, because they've been very spoiled, and even up to my generations, to be honest, they have no concept of what's coming. They've never felt times like this before, that the poverty that could ravage England and Great Britain and Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland and eventually Europe, when Europe collapses as well, the debt in America, the poverty that could rage is something that all generations on the planet haven't really seen, unless you live in somewhere like the likes of Venezuela or some sort of country where the economy has already collapsed. And it's already gone to shit there, and it could be some places in South Africa, or there is a few countries where the economy has collapsed, hyperinflation has occurred, and the debt and the International Monetary Fund stepped in, and it's all gone to shit. And again, you could research that, but it has happened. It's not unprecedented. It's kind of unprecedented in the Western world, is the big news here. It's not really done in the Western world, America, Europe, United Kingdom. It's kind of a third world country kind of scenario, but again, England is pretty much becoming a third world country. Again, this could absolutely decimate the NHS. And yeah, there's, again, people aren't going to believe how bad it could get, and how quick it can get bad. And yeah, just reiterate, it's going to be times a lot of people the majority of people have never witnessed.
And I'll give you another signal of what's in store, and where I think things can get exponential very quickly, which is what happens in markets. It's what brings companies down, and it can bring governments down. Do you remember when Rachel Reeves started crying on the front bench?
Yes.
Now, whatever you think about that, there was a massive gap down in British gilts. And the reason there was a gap down is because they perceived there was now a real risk that Reeves would go. And what markets see with Reeves, markets don't care whether British people's quality of life becomes appalling, whether kids don't have enough money. They don't care. What they care about is that Britain pays its bills. And Rachel Reeves has been very clear. She will stick to, quote unquote, the fiscal rules. So what that was is a signal of what markets, how they will react to Rachel Reeves' successor, which sadly will not be, a very smart, practical person who understands markets. It will be an Ed Miliband or one of the lunatics inside this clown car.
God help us if that happens.
And once that starts to happen and our bond yields start.
Well, the problem is it does happen, and they'll put somebody in charge of the economy who doesn't really understand economics, which is most people. That's the problem. And that's why whoever they put in, they always get away with putting somebody in who hasn't got a fucking clue, because everybody else hasn't got a clue. So yeah, like some of the things that these people are proposing, if you listen to, again, a good channel to follow is Silver Fox Hot Takes, who covers this kind of thing. If you listen to some of the policies that these people are planning to bring in, it will absolutely kill growth for the country. Like, rich people will leave. Look, it will set about a cycle of poverty that'll just escalate and escalate because of some of it's not everything they're doing will not build growth. There will not be no growth from these policies, whereas they need to do the complete opposite of what they're doing. So then again, you have to consider whether they're doing this on purpose and just completely destroying the economy on purpose. And Rachel Reeves, or whoever is the Chancellor at the time, is being advised to do things that ultimately don't work on purpose. But because she has no fucking knowledge of what she's doing, she doesn't know this till it goes wrong, and then she just has to face the shit. I mean, I don't know. That is Well, it is a possibility. It is an absolute possibility with all the chancellors of the exchequer. Again, they can reshuffle it and put someone else there, and they won't necessarily know what they're doing either. So it's a fucking shit show, as it always is.
Start going out to 6, 7, 8, 9%.
That'll be
I think
chaos.
at that point, coupled with the fact that sadly, Camilla, this country is feels like a powder keg at the moment, and I say that with no joy whatsoever. I'm extremely concerned, as is everyone at Reform, about the fact that British people are sick and tired of not being listened to. You combine those things, and so I'd say it's still not probable that there will be an early general election, but I think it is much more likely than it was even 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah, there probably will be an early election, to be honest. When again, the problem is the economy is going to collapse here around us. These people are going to have to tell you some real bad fucking news in the budget here, because there is no other option but to tax people money, really, to get money back, or we're in a lot of trouble. And even then, it won't stop it, it won't solve it. It'll maybe stop us paying more on the borrowing, but the borrowing is still 3.2 trillion pounds, as you've seen there for a couple of minutes. Yeah, it ultimately will never fix anything. The debt's still escalating. And the British people are going to be real pissed off with all of this, because a lot of them understand how much we've spent on migrants and foreigners, and now the British people are going to ultimately suffer. And these people are in 4 and 5 star hotels with iPhones, while your bills are going up. The price of food could double. Everything could double in price here. That's what we're looking at. We're looking at possibly everything doubling in price as the government scrambles to get taxes to pay off the interest, the interest on the national debt. So this is why I was kind of mentioning this for months, because I knew we were at the tipping point. To be honest, we'd went a long time spending ourselves into an oblivion, and ultimately now we're at the end of the road where everybody's now going to pay for these multiple governments. The Conservatives are as much to blame as Labour. Multiple governments spending us into an oblivion for well, since Thatcher, to be honest, since Thatcher. So yeah, we're fucked here, to be honest.
So there you go, Zia Youssef on the Daily Tea podcast with Camilla Tomney there, saying that an early general election is much more likely than it was a few months ago, because if the market completely crashes out of control, it's looking like it's sort of on track to go that way at the moment, they may well have to call a general election. It would be turkeys voting for Christmas, but there may come a point where they have no choice. I mean, we'll see what happens come the autumn budget, but
Yeah, but I mean, the problem you've got there is it doesn't matter who we elect here. And again, the British people maybe don't understand this because they don't understand economics. But it doesn't matter who you elect. The national debt will still be 3.2 trillion. The interest will still be 105 billion plus and rising a year. That will not change. Doesn't matter who we elect at this point. That is the state of the country's finances, and whoever is elected will have to deal with this problem. And I mean, you could just write it all off, because we don't know, we owe it to a cartel of wankers, to be honest. We could write it off and just tell them to fuck off, but we won't, because everybody's in on the game. That's the other part of it. So this is going to play out again. There'll be no writing off, no debts here. Again, I said to somebody in COVID, when they printed all the money and everybody was off work, and that this was going to absolutely decimate the country in years to come. And I was told by an older fella who thinks he knows everything and knows nothing, that all the debt would be written off. And I just laughed at him, and I said, you're talking fucking shit, to be honest. Well, like, why would they just write the debt off? And here we are, 5 years down the line, not one penny has been written off. It's all been added on to the national debt, which has escalated to the point that we're in a lot of shit here. So again, yeah, the poverty is coming back round there. I said to my mate who bought the house, who I said he might lose it in the near future. You'll be back living with your mum and dad. and a lot of people will be back living with the mum and dads here, and it'll be like the 70s, or I wasn't here in the 70s, but I think that was kind of the crack in the 70s and the 80s, when we had another one of these kind of shit shows, but this is a lot worse. This is a lot worse than ever before.
I think it's going to be a car crash, and I think a heck of a lot of wealth creators, the ones that are still left here, are going to be leaving the country and going to places like Dubai. And then the tax receipts will go down as those people leave the country, and the vicious circle will go on and on and on. So this morning, the 30-year gilt yield rose to 5.672% in early trading over the previous 27-year high set in April. Really good setting records, this Labour government, not good ones. Analysts note this risks removing any potential fiscal headroom needed by the Chancellor in her upcoming statement, which is expected to be announced to Parliament in late October, early November. I mean, this is going to be a nightmare for Rachel Reeves, because she keeps on desperately trying to figure out how she can make a little bit more money when the borrowing costs go up and her headroom disappears. And then as soon as she thinks she's figured out how to do it, we then hear that the black hole has gotten bigger because the gilt yields have gone up again, and then there's more and more money for her to find, and she just can't figure out where on earth to find it. And I think that this
Well, again, we could stop spending God knows how many millions a day on foreigners and migrants. That would kind of help massively. But no, let's just keep spending millions and billions on migrants and foreigners and universal credit for people who come to the country, have offered nothing. Yeah, let's just spend ourselves into an oblivion consistently, you know what I mean? So, yeah, absolute shit show. It's about to get a whole lot worse.
This guy, Jim Reed, a Deutsche Bank economist, really sums up this vicious circle that we're in. He says, even in orderly markets, we're seeing a slow-moving vicious circle. Rising debt concerns push yields higher, worsening debt dynamics, which in turn pushes yields higher again. Exactly. So the concerns about rising debt, and then consequently the gilt yields go up, and Rachel Reeves needs to find more money. Then Rachel Reeves starts hiking taxes to try and afford those rising debt costs. That then means that the economy shrinks, because you can't tax your way to growth, can you? The growth forecasts go down, the tax receipt forecasts go down, and then we see the same situation again. The markets freak out, the borrowing costs go up even more, we tax even more, and there's just no way we can grow the economy and become a wealthier, more prosperous society this way.
No. And by 2030, you will own nothing, and you won't be happy at all, to be honest. I think that statement's more aimed at the kids that didn't know the world before all of this bagwash occurred. So in 2030, you'll own nothing and be happy, but that's for the younger generations who never owned anything in the first place. So it's not really meant for anybody, say, over the age of maybe 30, 35, anybody over the age of 30 or 35. This is going to absolutely decimate everything you've ever worked for and toiled for, and if you've put in for a house and you've got a mortgage, or I don't know, whatever you've worked for, to be honest, in all your life, these people pretty much will take everything off you. And it's kind of legal. That's the beauty of it, because they've spent us into an oblivion. The debt is what the debt is, and it's come round in a big circle, and now we have to pay the fucker back, and we're all going to be taxed as shit, because that's the only way to do it. But it was all done on purpose. That's the thing that most people won't realise. And yeah, they'll think that all this just happened by accident, but no, you were fucked over, the likes of which you've never seen, in order to get to the New World Order. So yeah, that's what's happened here. So we'll wait and see what happens, but the news is not good. The news is not good. I'll leave it there. Peace.